host. I'm joking.
I'm just furniture. Yeah. I'm just here so he doesn't get cancelled.
Basically. Cool. Yo, everyone, welcome back. Brand new Techish. No more repeat episodes. It's brand new content for your earpiece.
Shiny and new.
And it's me, Michael Payne. I am one half of Techish. I'm CEO of Pocket and Pocket Jobs, and I am joined with
the better half of Techish, Abadesi.
Yo.
Hustle Crew.
Hustle Crew in the house. Yeah, so we just had our live show. So
Yeah, that was so fun.
let's make everyone jealous who didn't go.
Yeah, because they should be. I mean, it did sell out. Oh, sorry, guys.
Sold out.
Snooze
Waiting list as
lose.
well. To be fair, you might be listening in a city that's not London, but even if you did, you should have booked a flight.
Flown here.
Come on.
You know.
Do you not love us? I'm joking. I'm playing. What's the recap? What's the highlights? What's the lowlights?
It was amazing. Is the highlight.
Yeah.
It was incredible. The vibe was incredible. The people were incredible. Seeing the faces of listeners is such a treat. I'm always just looking at your face. So being able to see the faces of the people that listen was so fun. I really enjoyed the questions, and I also loved the networking after. The networking was really, really cool.
Yes. I think that is. I thought about that because I was like, listen, I go to so many events where you get people in the room who very rarely are in the same room together.
Yeah.
And then you spend half the time just listening to people on the stage, and it's like, okay, there's also a chance where you can kind of mingle and network and stuff like that. And I think that has to be at the center of all these kind of events. So yeah, we had at least half an hour, 45 minutes networking, which was dope. No lowlights. What could we do better next time, do you reckon?
I think that we should do multiple cities in a short window of time.
A tour.
Yeah, some kind of tour. It would be really cool to partner with someone that could make that happen.
That'd be amazing.
Either a venue partner or just someone who's done it before. But yeah, I feel like as soon as we started putting the posts out, photos from the show, people are like, come to this city, come to my city. So I do think it would just be nice to do, multiple live shows.
Techish goes to the US. Let's go.
Why not?
Let's go. So apart from the live show, I think, can we be any more sadder? You might not have got that reference because you might be too cool for that. But
Tell me.
Matthew Perry, rest in peace, aka Chandler Bing.
Oh, yeah.
I always said that the greatest advert that didn't exist was Microsoft Bing teaming up with Matthew Perry.
Why did they never do that?
I think maybe he's not
Too expensive.
Maybe he's too expensive. B, maybe he's also probably wasn't the most stable character for a long period of time. He had addiction issues. Yeah, brand affinity. Yeah, but it would have been a great idea. Obviously, are you a Friends fan?
I watched a lot of Friends as a kid. I haven't been on the train of people that have revisited it in the pandemic and post-pandemic. It's just not as funny as it was when I watched it as a kid, but it's got a place in my heart.
Okay, fair enough.
How about you?
I'm a big Friends fan. It's still one of those comfort shows where if I'm just I'll put it on in the background and I've seen every single episode.
For me.
So are you still on the Simpsons train?
I love the Simpsons.
Even the recent ones?
Seasons 1 to 10, exclusively.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, because it fell off the train hard.
I just go through the old episodes. I can quote every line.
Okay, fair enough. So did you have a favorite Friends character? Which one did you resonate with the most?
Do you know who I loved? And I actually saw a one-man show about him when I was at Edinburgh Fringe a couple of years ago. Gunther. Got a lot of love for Gunther.
Rest in peace, Gunther. He's also passed away as well.
Yeah, but he was amazing. I know I probably shouldn't be picking Fringe characters. I always loved Phoebe because Phoebe's just hilarious and probably the person I felt the most similar to in a weird way. Because she just always had her non sequiturs, coming out with the random
You're more
lines.
of a Monica though. I don't think you're more of a Phoebe, I'll be honest with you.
Oh, Monica! Oh my God.
You're more of a Monica. If we play a sports game, I'm going to be Abadesi's on the winning team. I'm on Abadesi's team. You're more... I think everyone thinks they're a Phoebe, but they're more of a Monica, man. Let's keep it real. Because who's really that hippy dippy? Who's really that carefree? Doesn't care about their career, doesn't care about anything. Used to be homeless, just that carefree spirit. She used to be homeless. Yeah, shout out to Friends, man. It was a classic show. Obviously, rest in peace, Matthew Perry. I think he basically had addiction issues for a very, very long time, and never married, never had kids. I think sometimes success can also just can never really paper over those cracks, really, if you've got those kind of deep-seated issues.
He had a difficult childhood as well. I was reading the New York Times obituary, and I think his parents split up when he was young. Both of his parents ended up remarrying and having new kids with their new partners. Right. And I think he always felt a lack of belonging and a lack of security. And he said in his memoir, which I haven't had a chance to read yet, that he just felt that being famous would fix him.
Yeah, it's odd because he literally did release a memoir and he passed away so soon. He must have I don't know if he knew on some deep level that maybe he's I don't know. It's hard to know. Maybe it's not good to do conjecture about it. But yeah, shout out to Matthew Perry. Shout out to his family, his loved ones, and rest in peace to an actor who brought one of those iconic characters in the game.
Yeah.
Chandler Bing. What else is on your minds?
speaking of death, I recently found out one of the founders that won in the Grace Hopper Picture event that was sponsored by Backstage Capital, the founders of Thermit Band, which is an incredible product. I talked about it on the show, a wearable mother and daughter team. But yeah, the daughter, Markia, passed away tragically not long after the complications from a blood clot, and the family are asking for donations to the American Blood Clot Association, if anyone feels inclined. But yeah, she's a young woman, 31 years old, with a whole life ahead of her. So my thoughts and prayers definitely go out to her and her family. But I think I've also just been thinking how we just never know what's around the corner. And it's really tragic and it's really sad.
That is sad. Yeah, we'll put the link to the show notes about that. That's terrible. Rest in peace. Unfortunately, that is how life can be, in the sense that you could be experiencing an amazing highlight. You've won something, you've won an award, and you don't know, like, is this your final week on earth? As morbid as that sounds, like, unfortunately, like, you just have to really do all the cliches and take life. Don't take it for granted.
I also think take perspective. I was coming here to the studio earlier today, and Tiwa Lula, one of our special guests, author of Confident and Killing It, great book and podcast. And she was saying, as we get to the end of the year, it's very easy to get trapped in the comparison game, you know, looking back at what other people have achieved this year. And comparison is the thief of joy, as we often say on this podcast. And in the post, she was just reminding everyone, like, don't get sucked into the comparison trap as you reflect on, you know, the last 10 months. Like, just focus on you and not on anyone else. And I do think one of the sad things about the age that we're in now is that it's really hard for us to have perspective. Like, every bit of bad news feels like a devastating end. And in reality, a devastating end is the loss of life.
Absolutely.
You know, it's death.
So how much money you made this year? I want to compare my assets with yours. No, I'm joking. No, you're right. Absolutely. And obviously, listen, we're on a...
My crypto's been booming.
We're on a... you're the only one. We're on you know, we're on apps like Instagram, which are basically comparison engine machines, basically, where, you know, you might be having your worst day, but you just know for a fact that when you log in, you're going to see everyone else's best day.
So is LinkedIn. I mean, you can't escape it.
LinkedIn, yeah. LinkedIn is really strange right now, though, isn't it?
Accolades. It's like weirdly personal. What's going on? Make it stop.
Day 5 with irritable bowel syndrome. I feel like it's like, I really respect your work, but do I need to hear this on LinkedIn?
Yeah, when Brene Brown said vulnerability, she didn't mean that. She did not.
But is that the logical conclusion?
I guess authenticity is ultimately subjective.
Yeah.
And what's authentic to one person in terms of building their personal brand and displaying their leadership is very different to someone else. But yeah, I mean, I'm increasingly drawn to privacy. It has such an allure.
Yeah, I think when everything is like a yin and yang, isn't it? And we've gone from one end of the pendulum now, where everyone's trying to be super authentic and everyone's trying to like show their, you know, their real self. And it's like, now maybe the thing to do is to be private and just to be like, have some mystery, man. Like,
have some mystery. But I think also, like, it's weird because I think a lot of us don't necessarily know what our boundaries are, and that's revealed by what's shared on social media. Like, I see a lot of people sharing things where I'm just like, I wonder if how you're going to feel about that 6 months from now, or like 12 months from now.
You know what, though? I recollect a friend of mine, we went on a holiday years ago, and he didn't want to have their pictures on Facebook. He told me, he said, no, it's a private thing. What are you doing? This is like years ago. I'm going to age myself talking about Facebook. And then I remember going to his house one time, and I took some pictures in his house, and he said, no, don't post that. This is my house. It's private. And then, like, now I'll see him. He's posting everything. And I'm like, really? What happened to you? And he's like, you become desensitized. And eventually the engagement becomes addictive. And you're like, okay, wow, like, the more I show of my life, the more, you know, plaudits I get, more success, more likes, and maybe even more opportunities. So then you slowly become desensitized, and everyone around you is doing the same thing. So I don't think there'll be a situation where in a few years' time you'll be like, oh my god, I can't believe I shared that. I think it will be like, oh my god, I can't believe I was so private. It's going in one direction, basically.
I'm definitely going the other way. Like, I'm a heavy archiver now in a way that I never used to be.
Interesting.
Because I used to think, oh, Instagram can be like my record of the past, but I don't know. It got to the point where I was like, actually, Instagram can be a channel where I talk about my work. I don't know. It's just, I guess it's like a super personal thing, but I'm just less inclined for people who, I mean, I've got 5,000 plus followers. The idea that all 5,000 of them know what I'm thinking, who I'm meeting, what I'm eating, it's a bit disturbing.
It's difficult because if I put 5,000 people in a stadium, you'd be terrified. But among that 5,000, there might be somebody who's got a check for you for an opportunity because they're like, oh, Abadesi's so nice and she reminds me of me or my daughter or whatever. Like, how do I write a check? Or it might be stalkers. That's the other thing. It might be 20 stalkers. If I put 5,000 people in the room, there's going to be a percentage of those who are just nuts. Pardon my French or whatever, if that's not politically correct thing to say, but like there are going to be people that are kind of not right in the head. So I understand why you want to take a step back. So in corporate news, WeWork has apparently is apparently facing bankruptcy next week. Oh my lord! They're going to declare.
Who got fired at SoftBank?
I don't know. So just to give the context, WeWork at one point was valued at $49 billion.
Wow.
It was going to go public. They couldn't get it public because the deck was a joke and the numbers weren't looking good. Then I think I think it crashed to 19 billion. At that point, Adam Newman, the CEO, was pushed out of the company. SoftBank recapitalized the company. And I think Adam Newman walked away with $2 billion.
Not bad.
Not bad.
He's working in climate tech now.
Yeah. So if you don't know who Adam Newman is, he's basically a super eccentric Israeli-American entrepreneur. He basically built WeWork in a way where there was no real tangible numbers. It was all very much airy-fairy of like we're building community.
Yes.
And he is the quintessential founder who in that kind of 0% interest rate world was able to raise phenomenal amounts of capital to build a normal business but frame it as a tech company and get astronomical valuation. Cashed out, basically. They pushed him out and said, you're destroying the business. So he walked away with 2 billion. But now the company is worth around 50 million.
Oh,
that's what I've heard.
Bargain bucket.
So, what's going on? This is a cautionary tale, really, isn't it? Of the last 10 years, isn't it? Like, this is what happens when the excess is right. You don't think so?
No, I mean 100%. Like We Crashed, which I haven't watched, is all about it, and it was really interesting because I remember when WeWork's S1 filing happened and the press picked it up. S1 being like the paperwork you do when you're ready to go public, and the level of ridiculousness that came out of that, like various family members on 6-figure salaries.
Yeah, it's so corrupt.
That were like quite unjustifiable, random job titles that didn't quite make sense. And then more and more stories started to come out, you know, his insistence on walking around the office barefoot and, you know, retreats.
Hell no.
And offsites in far-flung exotic places. I think a lot of us were already very aware that the valuation was so reflective of the bubble, right? Like none of us could really see the real value. Like, where's the intellectual property in this? Like, where's the defensibility in this? Like all of the kind of like go-to
Where's the technology? There's no technology at all. Just buildings.
Of a unicorn company weren't there.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's not a surprise of the rise and fall. And as someone that used to work at Groupon, which was the world's fastest growing company ever, when the founder at the time, Andrew Mason, was on the cover of Fortune magazine. And I remember when we did our S1 filing and analysts estimated that we would trade at around $40 a share. I'm talking days after the IPO. I was watching my equity value change in real time. We were trading at about $16 a share, which is a lot lower than those analyst estimates. It starts to make me wonder, who made money out of WeWork? Like, who really made money out of WeWork? And to what extent did people play the game pretty well, finesse the game to their own advantage? Because at some point in time, people that came in early would have been able to sell on the secondary market
100%.
during that super high valuation
100%.
and get out pretty scot-free.
But there's a reason why Adam Newman has been able to raise capital for his new companies, because the people that got with him early made a bunch of money. Like you said, if you are an investor, I don't know, was it Sequoia? I don't know. The large VC firms that invested in him early, they could sell on the secondary markets. The company was valued at 49 billion, so that's pretty lucrative. And they've got out of Dodge, and he's got out of Dodge as well, Adam Newman. So he's made 2 billion. So there's a lot of people that made money. SoftBank essentially is holding the bag in this situation. Masa Yoshisana, I don't know if I say his name, but SoftBank is a Japanese company that has a VC arm. So they're the fools in the situation. And then also, unfortunately, a lot of employees are left holding the bag.
Well, this is the thing.
Yeah, a lot of employees were promised that your equity is going to be worth this.
Yeah.
You're actually in a unicorn company here. Yeah. We're worth 49 billion now. Maybe we're going to be worth $1 trillion, like we're Apple, for example, one day. Yeah. And everywhere's going to be we this, we school, we community, we that, we work, everything. So those people who put in years thinking that they were going to become millionaires right now, it never came to fruition, because they only now recently went public, and now it's crashing down.
People that sweated away for the dream. And you know what's going to happen? This is the messed up thing about capitalism. Big players always find a way to win. Little fish always end up, at the bottom of the tank. Yeah. Here's what's going to happen to WeWork. Private equity is going to buy it. Private equity is going to do their classic thing. In my head, private equity is literally like property developers for companies. Yeah. They buy it, they finesse it, make it nice, and then they sell it for a higher price. So I'm sure private equity is going to buy it, take it off the market, make it a little nicer, float it again, get their returns, and off they go.
You know what though? I've heard people say that actually co-working spaces just don't work as a business per se. So I don't know if that will be the case. If they can make it profitable, good luck to them. I'm not mad at it. There is a need for co-working spaces. I'm not like it is a functional product that we do need from time to time. But can it justify, you know, a unicorn valuation? I don't know, and I doubt it. Because there's a really boring version of it called, is it called Regis? What's the really...
Oh, Regis. I used to be in a Regis building during my Groupon days, actually.
So they must have been flummoxed in the boardroom because they're like, we have the exact same product. Why is this company worth 50 billion and we're worth nothing? Like, they must have been... And they lived to tell. They outlived them. So there we go.
And there's the office group. I was in a Fora office yesterday. Fora co-working space, female founder. And the receptionist was telling me how they've been acquired by the office group. And I was like, oh, wow, interesting. And I was like, I mean, people are acquiring things. Maybe there's going to be some consolidation. I don't know. I don't know who owns the office group. I don't know who owns Regis.
But you know why? This is why capitalism is so hard. So another company which is struggling. So for our British audience, they wouldn't know. Americans might not. But ASOS, which is a clothing online retailer brand.
On Stars.
Yes. So it's a retailer brand, online brand that basically was the dominant e-commerce clothing fashion platform in the UK.
Yes.
I think it had launched in the US. But they've been battered by like Shein and all these kind of
Boohoo.
like Boohoo. But I think even Boohoo's been battered by Shein. So basically, the
Shein.
low-cost China-based clothing manufacturing platform type companies have destroyed these pre-existing retailers.
Wow.
And it's like capitalism's so hard because your moat doesn't last forever. I thought ASOS was like, yo, they're the guys. They're gonna be around for the next 20 years. That would have been a solid stock pick from my perspective.
Yeah.
But who could have foreseen that basically you're going to get a platform where, because Shein essentially is the manufacturers going direct to consumer basically, aren't they?
True.
Yeah, there's not really like, because ASOS probably buys from a company like Shein in terms of the manufacturers and then upsells it and then resells it to the UK market. Whereas Shein is like, we're just going to go straight to the consumer, bypass, and we're going to sell you something for $7. How can anyone compete with that?
This is why entrepreneurs listening out there, be a premium product. You know, I price myself as a premium product, and then I challenge my team to deliver the quality of a premium product. I just feel like once you're entering at that bargain bucket level, you are in a race to the bottom. And I know fashion has healthy margins. I used to work at Amazon. Fashion was our most profitable department. But even at that fast fashion, low cost phase, like, I'm sorry, ASOS did not have a defensible brand. If you ever bought ASOS own brand, like, stuff doesn't even come lined. You know what I mean? Like, literally it'll fall apart after a few washes. You buy it because it's cheap. You buy it because you want that look for that day and you're never going to wear it again. And yeah, I just kind of think, is this inevitable? You know, is this inevitable for any type of product that positions itself as we want to be the product for the customers that want to spend as little money as possible?
Yes.
Because there's no loyalty from that type of consumer.
Absolutely not.
Someone who's literally just loyal to the lowest price will always go to where it's cheapest.
When you worked at Groupon, wasn't that what a lot of your kind of vendors complained about? That you promised them the stars, we're going to get you this business.
Retention.
And then all the customers that came from Groupon were the worst customers because they didn't care about brand. There's no brand loyalty. It was just about give me the cheap price. And those businesses got screwed.
This is absolutely it. And, you know, a big part of Groupon's success was in some ways selling a lie, right? It was this idea that this is an acquisition tool, but if you get their email addresses, build a community, loyalty schemes, incentives, then we guarantee that they'll stick around. But we knew that we had a community of bargain hunters and they were just hunting for the next bargain.
Yeah, that's wild. You know what? When I went to university, I did study business for a little bit. And like the only thing that ever stuck with me was in our strategy classes. And they talked about the only two viable strategies are a differentiation strategy where you're upscale, upmarket premium, or the low cost strategy. Yeah. Basically. And you don't want to be in the middle, basically, because if you're in the middle, you're screwed. So ASOS was kind of in the middle. There was always companies that were cheaper than ASOS, but they were never the lowest cost. And now in a bad economic environment, they're screwed. Yeah. What brands are doing well? The Balenciagas, the super duper exactly, right? They're gonna always do well because the rich always want to floss, basically. So don't get stuck in the middle. Either say I'm going to be the premium brand or be the low-cost provider. But most of us listening can't be the low-cost provider because you need massive economies of scale. You need massive investment. You need warehouses and you need factories to get that cheap price, basically. You can't be Amazon. No. So make sure that you're highly differentiated and you're premium, like you said. So yeah, shout out to ASOS. The other thing I wanted to mention, actually, so this is a fascinating story. Have you heard of a guy called Keith Lee?
Keith Floyd, I have heard of.
So Keith Lee is I think he's a former fighter. I think he's a former MMA fighter, but he became a food reviewer. And he's got like 14 million followers, basically, reviewing food.
Respect.
And he has like saved businesses. So he's gone to like certain restaurants and like said, this food is great, 10 out of 10. And made the business boom. People have queued up.
And the restaurant game is hard.
The restaurant game is hard. But what's happened now is that he decided to do a tour of Atlanta. So he's US based.
Okay.
And because he's so famous now, he often sends his family ahead of time to go to the restaurant and see how they're treated before how he gets treated.
Smart.
Yes, but what's happened is that like he has encountered many restaurants in Atlanta where his family is basically getting treated like shit. They are not getting served. Oh, it's an hour waiting time.
Yeah.
As soon as they see my man, it's like, yo, 5 minutes, we'll get you a table, whatever, right?
VIP.
Yeah, so he's having these back and forths with a lot of these restaurants because he's leaving honest reviews. Has influencer culture gone too far now in a sense where like you're treating the normal people like dog shit, but as soon as the influencer walks in, oh my god, like what's going on? Like how can we help you? And it's like, yo, just customer service for everyone. Why have I got to have 1 million followers for you to rate me?
Yeah, do you know what? This is such a good point because I definitely think that there's a lot of layers to this issue. I think the first one is, of course, you're always going to give extra special service to who you think is a VIP. That's always been the case, right?
Shame.
There are times where, you know, you might have a critic in your restaurant or at your show and the word goes around like, okay, table seven, like be extra nice to them. I remember when I used to work in retail, we always used to be warned if there was like a secret shopper coming.
Mystery
like,
shopper, baby.
Mystery shopper. Like everyone, you know, act good, like act focused.
Yeah.
So I think to some degree, like that's always existed where you know that there's like your average performance and what you want to pretend is your average performance when you're being inspected is actually your extra special performance. Right. So I think there's an element of that. But I think in general, you know, we are in late stage capitalism. We are post-pandemic. We are, you know, cost of living crisis, inflation, whatever you want to call it. And people who are often in a services role or hospitality role are sometimes some of the most squeezed people. So there's not a huge amount of like motivation and enthusiasm, I think, in a lot of those roles. Like a lot of people in hospitality, if that is their first job, they're like probably like super drained, like working overtime. And if it's their second job because they're like a aspiring XYZ, then they're probably like not super motivated. So I don't know. I think it's like a really hard one. Like I, of course, always want to get the best customer service. Here in the UK, sometimes I miss US customer service.
Yeah.
Like the fact that people are working for their personal tip, not something that they're going to share. I always really like feeling special as a customer. And I appreciate that that's not always the case in every restaurant.
Yeah.
But in general, customer service in the US feels very different to customer service
So you're saying the customer
UK.
service in the US is better primarily because they're incentivized for tips, basically.
I just feel like sometimes in the UK, you walk into a restaurant, especially like in like whatever cool areas where I hang out, you don't even know who works there.
No one gives a
shit.
Like
everyone's literally just like dressed the same. Like customer, staff. I'm like, who actually, is that guy in the tattoos and the beanie? Does he work here? I don't even know who works here. And then when you finally get someone's attention, it's just like they don't even want to look at you, let alone talk to you. And then as soon as the food comes out, it's like they're dropping the plate and they're running away before you go, excuse me.
Yeah.
Oh, we still don't have cutlery. Oh, no, that's cool. We'll just wait. So I don't know. I do sometimes miss that American customer service, even if it's saccharine, even if it's inauthentic. At least I can like participate in the fantasy that I'm special.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, yeah. You know what? I think businesses should treat everyone like they've got 1 million followers because you just don't know who does. If I had a restaurant, because right now I mentioned a person to you who's got 14 million followers. You've never ever heard of him. No. If I showed you a picture, you wouldn't know who he is. And there's so many micro famous people who have like 1 million followers, 2 million followers that you wouldn't recognize. So as a business owner, just assume that everyone could be someone of notoriety right now, because it's not as if like we live in a world where there's that macro famous person who everyone knows now, apart from like Taylor Swift and Beyonce and stuff like that. So be on your P's and Q's and just treat everyone like they could shut you down.
But here's the thing: I bet the owner of that business asks his team to treat everyone like they're a VIP. Right?
Possibly. I mean, I think
this is where processes fail us, I think.
Yeah.
And, I think a lot of people who are listening probably are managers or are business owners who have teams and they can't be there all the time and they can't watch all the time. And, one of the things that I became obsessed with this year working on Hustle Crew was like our processes, because I was like, I can't always be in the room when training is happening, but I want to feel like everyone is bringing the same energy and commitment to the training as if I were there, as if I were doing it. And I think the only way that you can guarantee that is if you have processes that make people feel accountable, or if you're collecting the feedback and collecting the data. Like in my company, if you don't get 80% of respondents to complete data, then I will assume that everyone who didn't give feedback rated you 0. And that will be your score. But it's hard.
As a business owner, it's so difficult because Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's business partner, says, show me the incentive, I'll show you the result.
I like
and like sometimes we're sitting here thinking, why won't you be as enthusiastic as me, my employee? Like it's like they're not incentivized to, one, in the same way that you are as the owner of the company. So what are the incentives that we can put around it so that you have that same desire to like follow up on those leads like I would, basically, right? Obviously, once you have the incentive sorted out and they're still not performing, obviously then there's a really big macro issue.
Yeah.
But I think we've got to stop hoping that like, you know, everyone's gonna be super enthusiastic for our little company. It's got to be like, yo, why should you care? Do you get what I'm saying? And that's what I struggled with as a business owner, to make sure that everyone is the kind of thing, because incentives are dangerous because you can incentivize for the wrong thing.
Oh, definitely.
So for example, like for my platform, I tell my team, like, as a job board, we need to make sure there's lots of applications basically for our partners. So what is that incentive? If I say to them, you get a bonus if we get lots of applications, what they're going to do is just say like, let's just get anyone on the platform.
Yeah.
Who the hell cares, basically, right? And then I have to be like, okay, no, it has to be applications, but quality applications.
Yeah.
So you figure it out as you go along.
So a better metric would be matches, successful matches.
Exactly. There we go. But yeah, shout out to Charlie Munger. Cool. I think for the episode, that's cool. That's one episode down.
Yeah. How long was that?
That was, we did about 4 stories.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. That's good.
Perfect.
Yeah, with adverts and intro outro, we're good.